Hello and welcome to the ARARA online lecture series put on by the American Rock Art Research Association. I am Peter Anick, Vice President of ARARA, and your host for today's presentation. As many of you know, we have created an ARARA YouTube channel, and we are posting most of our lecture series there. So if you cannot attend a talk or would like to see one again, you'll be able to do that on our YouTube channel. To get there, just search YouTube for ARARA Rock Art and you'll find us. We invite you to subscribe to our channel, which now has close to 500 subscribers and over 10,000 views. We'd also like to invite any of you who are not members of ARARA to visit our webpage and Facebook pages and learn more about what we do. In addition to putting on this lecture series, we are all active in rock art documentation, education, preservation. We publish rock art research in an annual volume called American Indian Rock Art. And we hold an annual conference, which includes 2 days of talks and 2 days of field trips. And next year, we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary in May in Farmington, New Mexico. So we hope that many of you can come and celebrate with us. Tonight's speaker, Carol Patterson, is a Colorado native. She has a BA from the University of New Mexico, a master's from Columbia Pacific University, and a PhD in rock art from James Cook University in Australia. We call that a very well-rounded education. She has worked as a professor of cultural anthropology, a field archaeologist, and principal investigator at Uraka Archaeological Services, a company specializing in rock art documentation and reevaluation projects. She has published several books and journal articles, most recently The Petroglyphs of Western Colorado and the Northern Ute Indian Reservation as interpreted by Clifford Duncan. And some of us had the pleasure of going on a field trip led by Carol during an ARARA conference in Colorado. Tonight, we will all enjoy her insights as she leads us into the clouds. So take it away, Carol.
All righty, thank you. Indigenous people who authored the petroglyphs: the Karisan, the Zuni, the Hopi, the Apache, the Utes, the Paiutes. And to the photographers, Stan Berman, Michael Redford, and Dave Manley. You'll see their photographs throughout this show. So if you were to represent a cloud, if you painted one, I suppose it would look something like this. But how would you explain why they gather or why they disperse? Or how would you depict the sound of thunder? What the heck is lightning? So these, way we draw clouds, Western people, we all just draw clouds, right? Well, these people are animistic, and animism is the behavior that is revealed through the belief in spirits that objects have, or places, or creatures. They all possess this spiritual essence. This is an example of a cloud being in a Navajo weaving. So clouds are personalized with faces. And these are Karisan these are called Kopashia. They're cloud beings of the east. And the man on their left has the little clouds on the hat that he's wearing. And the rain's coming down below them, and there's lightning is following it down. The center one is part of a mural of an altar in a kiva. And there's the little cloud faces with the rain and the lightning. And this is, the bottom one is an early depiction of the Kopashia with the little faces and the lightning and the rain coming down. The Zuni have Uwanamia masks or rainmakers, cloud beings also with the lightning and the faces on the clouds. Or the rainbow across and the colored symbols on the front of his face of a long-haired Kachina. So the Karisan Kosoninkos are cloud beings of the West, and they have a full face. They represent the cloud face with the top and the face of the cloud in the center, the dark line under the cloud, under the chin, and this rain beard that falls down. And we find this Kosoninko cloud women in the Five Faces site. Here's the mask that represents a Kosoninko. Specifically, it's yellow woman. And you see the same thing, the black line under the chin, and the rain beard that comes down, called Kosininkos. That's from 1890s. And here they are at Five Faces site, 4 clouds with yellow woman on the right here, blue woman in the west, red woman in the south, and white woman in the east. And Sun Youth is in the center with his bow strap. And that's all in my book. I'll read it. So here's what I've found over the last 3 or 4 years is there's a lot of variants of clouds. They're all anthropomorphized with striking dissimilarities. Each form has rain, has lightning, and thunder symbols for their identity as cloud beings. So we're going to go through all of these funny little characters and show you why they're cloud beings for each culture. Some of the cloud beings have heads and these bulky bodies and the arm gestures that we're going to look at. Some of them are cloud houses. They have heads, but the rain and lightning and thunder goes on inside them, like a house. That's why they're called cloud houses. Some of them have big, bulgy eyes, like these, and no arms. You can't tell what they're doing. And some of them have very elongated bodies and come in different forms, but we're still going to pick out some of these symbols. The arm gestures, of course, what I'm really interested in, incorporate the sky symbol, which is this nice arc that forms right around here, like a sky. It's an indicator of where it is in space, up in the sky. These bent down arms, reaching down like these, mean that it's coming down. It's going down to the ground. This one represents a cloud burst, in my opinion, because it has the arms showing that it's coming down, and its rain beard is going all the way to the ground where its feet are, which represents the ground. Here's a nice photograph of a cloud burst. But this one is spectacular. This is Michael Redford, and it just looks like, bullseye, boom, down it comes, straight down. Virga streaks is more like where it comes down and then goes back up into the cloud. This figure is trying to come down, but it's very light in between to the ground and not really raining very hard, which I think is describing Virga and the frustration they have where it goes all the way down but then goes back up. This one is a wonderful little story if you have the whole panel together. And it shows a cloud. You can see the cloud here with its big eyes and its rain symbol coming down. But these people most of the groups in the Southwest start on the right side and read to the left. So if we start over here, we see a little cloud with one arm sort of thing touching the wall of this. It's like a cave, but I think it's gesturing to the sky. It's a rain being in the sky. Kind of shy, it's very small. But it comes forward, and it's doing that because this figure here is a rain priest, and he does 3 things to attract the clouds. It's called imitative magic. He raises a feather, which has to do with praying. Also has one on his head. He spews smoke out of his mouth, which is associated with moisture or looks like mist. And he sprinkles with his other arm a lot of rain or moisture coming down. And so the cloud has left the sky and come forward towards him. It's quite attractive to him. That's what the ceremony is all about anyway. Here's another ceremony where you get the rain priest, perhaps with his feather, and as initiates here or participants coming forward to do this rain ceremony. The 2 in the front here are covered with dots for moisture. The rain being, this is from another culture, it's a little different, no eyes on it, is standing here. you can see it has feet on the bottom like this. And there's birds with lightning attached to them or something on this side going back and forth, which looks very much like this, where the rain cloud is almost like standing on the ground and the lightning going back up like the birds are that make it rain. You have to have all these elements together to make it rain. And if you flip this picture here, you've got this on the side where the birds are and the feet coming down of the clouds of the rain. That's sort of similar to this. I just know that they observed a lot of weather, especially in the Southwest. There were times they could see this, like Stan Berman does. And that's what they're trying to describe in these paintings, this event. Because by painting it, it attracts more. By doing it, it attracts more, if you know what I mean. This panel also has a bunch of attendants here with their feathers and maybe probably a dragonfly that is associated with moisture, spitting moisture. They're carrying long feathers, prayer wands. And here's a sky, the cloud being with his sky symbol, with rain coming out of his arms and lightning out of his feet. And he looks like this, lightning feet going into the ground, just like this photograph also of lightning-like roots that the cloud is walking around on or standing on or coming out of the cloud. And with it comes the rain right down with it. This character is sort of passing by. Light rain, lightning, a big dump of rain in the center, and then light rain off to the side. That one of those passing by down bursts that causes flash floods in certain areas. Different culture. Again, this one has little ears on it, and whole body is striped with rain. This one I love. The way it's expressed in the Zuni is that they are ribbons of hail. Hail comes in ribbons. And I found a photograph of these ribbons of hail coming down just like that. You can see the little balls bunched up in different parts of it and the dark streaks in between. I think they really drew this beautifully with lightning on the side. And then rainbows, another one of my favorites. This panel has been drawn by rock art recorders for projects for the government, but they failed to notice this ladder in between the legs. And ladders are rainbows. It is the ladder, the rainbow that the Kachinas climb up and down when they come down to the earth. Okay, so Kachina is a rain bringer. So when they come to the earth with rain, they come down the ladder. And this figure is showing the rain and the ladder coming down. Here's another culture that's done it this way, showing almost a misty rain that has produced a rainbow on the side. It's pretty old, but I don't know any idea who did it. This one I love. I don't know who did it, but you can see how straight and perfect that ladder is coming out of the rain being. So within animism are particulars of these cultures in the Southwest. Each culture describes the rain beings in a different way. So in the West, we have the Caris, the Zuni, Apache, and Navajo. And we have names for all of these beings that I've been able to find. In the east, the Rio Grande Pueblos, the Hopis, the Utes also have symbols, but they don't personalize the symbol. So we're going to start with these people that we do see a relationship in the text. They're all there. They're described with names and characters and behavior that is so important to these people. Everybody knows the Kachina panel. It's been talked about before last month, but I want to go over it with these cloud beings. Now again, they start on the right and go to the left. And we see this character with his corn husk hair tied up in corn husk with a feather in the center. And he has these rabbit skin straps on his chest. And that's the only being called Kashari that was only Karisan. None of the other groups ever have that. And he's holding a drum, and there's a little stick figure that's pounding this drum, and these arcs are coming out of the drum. And that's very important because we'll talk about that more, but it's the only way they can symbolize sound. And we're also going to talk about these bars that go into the ears, not earrings, and we'll talk about these steps that they come down. So the Kashari, I'm going to go the other direction for your purposes. Kashari has a drum and a batoon. He has these rabbit skin straps on his body. And he gets his horizontal stripes later. In the beginning stories, he's just like this. And he has bear claw feet because he's a medicine person too. He has a drumstick, and the sound is rising out of that. Now we know that sound because here it is coming up between these two figures. And here it is pounding on his chest. And something happens up here where this vessel on the top of his head breaks open and the water comes down. So we'll talk about that. The only way we can verify that this is sound is because they talk about knife wing sound, the thunderbird that frightens the clouds, beats against his chest. And the sound comes from these drums, big drums that they use. These bars that go into their ears also represent sound, and they're called lithostones, kiva bells. And they have found these stones piled up near the kivas. Hewitt talks about them, and they're used to call the rain spirits. The priest calls them into the kivas, but it's the sound, they call them kiva bells, to call in the rain beings. So they're going into the ears of all these figures, and then we're going to talk about these steps. There's your lithophones. They look like that. And they look like lenticular clouds too. The Karisan people believe that the clouds come from 5 skies above. And I'm sure this is probably what they were seeing, that there's not just one layer of clouds. Oh my gosh, there's 5 of them, or 7 or 9, whatever version of the myth you read. But Gogamanuish, he's the messenger Kachina. He lives up here, 5 skies above. And he has one arm on each cloud, and he's bringing them down these water steps. They're called Kachinas, water steps. They hear the prayer, they come down the steps, and messenger Kachina brings them, and uh-oh, here comes thunder. Boom, boom, boom. So the last panel shows the thunder rising up and the vessels on top of their heads that carry the water. So this is pre-ceramic area. This is basket maker 2. And the only way they could show baskets, vessels that carry water, would be something like this thing that they've used for centuries before. And when the thunder comes up, it basically breaks open the bottom of these vessels, and down comes the rain. The Zuni also have the Unawanamia at the west, and they show it similarly, but in their myths, they talk about the sky as a stone bowl cover, so it's solid. And that's why I believe these are Zuni. And they also say they are clothed in rain. They're wrapped in moisture in rain. They don't have the same designs as the Krisan do. But they have picked up this idea of thunder. And these little guys with thunder coming out of their head he's tilted on purpose to beat against this cloud and make it rain. Here's a modern version of it, the Zuni rain bringers pouring out the vessels of water through the cloud down onto the people. So the components of a rain cloud include the thunder and the lightning beings. These guys are really cool. The lightning beings carry, let's go to the thunder first. I'll have to do thunder. Okay, thunder. Thunder beings with these funny things on their head, not just floating around, but actually emanating out of them. So thunder is also animated. Here they are. You couldn't see them in the last slide. So here they are emanating out of their mouth, this boom, 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 and out of their heads, boom. And on their arm is what I'm calling a thunder rattle. Thunder rattle looks like this. And they have one in the museum in Vernal without a provenience. We don't know where it came from. But it's very much the same shape as this. And when you turn it, it goes roar, 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 back and forth. And I've talked about that in another presentation. So it has a little strap for your thumb, so it's not a headpiece. It's a rattle that's rotated. It's got sand and stones, mostly sand in there. So it makes the sound of thunder, like shoo, shoo, shoo. Well, I'll have to get you the tape. We did roll it back and forth and we got some thunderous sounds. So the thunder, the whole panel shows you thunder beating on their chest, the sound of it, thunder rising, thunder opening up these vessels, and down comes the rain. And this is a chart showing the origin or variations of thunder birds. This little guy here has the same shape as the thunder coming out of the drum, sound of thunder, the thunder bird. Krisan call him knife wing. It's a translation from the 1800s of this being. He looks like a knife, but he's the origin of this progenitor of all of these other birds, all the other different cultures. Here they are, thunderbirds with the cloud above their head and a rainbow from Apache Flats. No, this is Three Rivers. Here's a piece of pottery with the cloud and the thunderbird bumping up against the cloud. There he is from Zuni with the cloud on top of his head. And this pot here with the thunderbird and the cloud on top of his head. It's the earliest photographs I can find before everything started changing. So the Kopashia are the little lightning spirits. Like we showed before, they're in charge of lightning and they live in the east. Here's a Kopashia mask with all their little faces. And they look like this around here in the Four Corners area, Sand Island, Montezuma Canyon. But they're all carrying lightning sticks in their hands. Lightning, and their throwing stick here. You can see that in the other arm, sort of a line with a circle at the end, an oval throwing stick. And they are the ones that throw the lightning down. And they also have this little guy where he's shown up in this clouds with this rain, along with these people. And they get pretty elaborate. Here's the whole panel, exactly as it is, as you can see in Bug Canyon, with the little Kopashia peeking out. And their faces, they're said to be very ugly, and that's why they were sent to be living in the East, but they're very beneficial. They bring presents, they bring rain, and they're very highly celebrated today. Here's a Comanche version. Here they are shooting the arrows, pouring their baskets of water out. The drum is right here to make the sound of thunder, and whole enchilada right there. So I just want to touch on the racing Kachinas that like to race, relay racers and runners, but they do it for clouds. They do it to draw out the clouds. The runners wear these painted designs on them. They wear a wide belt to carry goods, good luck things, or food, and they have a V-shaped breechcloth. This is their necklace. They're not ladies. They're wearing beads and amulets for good luck, because sometimes their runs are very long and very dangerous. And here's their breechcloth that ties in the back. It's not a menstrual belt. It's for the runners. And it's not connected to the waistband. There's a space between where the breechcloth is and the belt. Here's a painting of them in Grand Gulch. You have the belt, the breech cloth, and here you can see the little yucca necklace around its neck. And each runner has different colors that are symbolic for either the team that they're on or clan. These are Zuni runners. Now they're all covered with spots because they're running for rain and lightning. It's got lightning all down here. They're running to entice the clouds to come out, like imitative magic, as we were talking about before. And these are paintings of their petroglyphs, very heavily enhanced so that you can see them. But you see the breechcloth, you see the belt, and you see these strings of yucca beads. And there they are, and I know you can't see them. So they're right next to these big, elaborate cloud beams. And here's the whole panel. And at the right side, again, is the vessel with water to signal here's cloud. It's coming in. This one has an elaborate headdress, rain on the second one, and lightning on the third one. And the runners are all on right over here. Runners. These drawings are by Janet Leverwood. Thank you, Janet. And these cloud beams, here they come. So you can see how there's probably a stone bowl on the head of this one. Signals to me that it's Zuni. It has the lightning coming down. This one has the thunder arc on it, but possibly something hard like rocks, hammers. I don't know. I don't know what's all this. It's totally different, unique, but moisture dots coming down. And this one has the rain, of course, coming down. And look who's pulling him in. Here's the little runner pulling in this cloud, bringing it forward. So we also have LiDAR maps showing these running roads. What's interesting is the runners in the East Coast along the Rio Grande, eastern pueblos, run east and west to bring out the sun or slow it down. But what we're finding in the West is that they're running north and south, which are the prevailing winds that come in with the clouds from the south up and the north down. And once you've lived in Bluff for a while, it's very, very consistent. So the last one is going to be about the Apache mountain spirits called the Hatsin. And they use the symbols for rain and moisture and wind, mountains. And it's been a 2-year study about their culture, the Hickory Apache, and their influence in this in the Uinta Basin. But one of their Hassins, which are gods, has a dog. In fact, all Hassins have dogs, the color of them. White Hassin has a white dog, black Hassin has a black dog, well, gray Hassin has a little gray dog. And he's asked by the creator to go through the clouds and ask them how everything's going. So they take this journey through the sky. And he's told that as he approaches these clouds, to look inside and you'll see beautiful things in there. You'll see the rain, the lightning, and the thunder, but you are not to go in, even if they ask you, because the rain is inside your house. So if you start Apache style from the east and you go down to the south and up to the west, this way you can see the clouds get bigger and bigger and bigger as they go up. And under the clouds, these cloud beings with their little, they don't have eyes, but they have sort of heads, is Gray Hassin with this little dog. He's shown the dog is leading and then the dog is following and so on, a little discussion under there. Just like this. So he's visiting all the clouds. Now, they ask, I don't know if I can read it all, but they ask Dark Cloud to get black lightning. So he jumps into this cloud and creates black lightning, which is a big part of the story. And he strikes some, he strikes a pine tree that starts a fire, and from that lightning struck wood, you can make thunder, bull roars, we call it, but they make the sound of thunder. So here's all the clouds named, as you can see, with the different motifs inside. What I'm saying is lightning is lots of, and thunder are many lines together. Thunder, lightning is more straight. Rain, of course, is straight down. Here's lightning, black lightning coming down. Who knows? But this is what a thunder stick looks like. It has a head also for the Apache tradition. It has the wavy lines for thunder. This kind of thing for maybe there's clap thunder, there's rolling thunder, there's all of these things that are very similar to what's inside these clouds. And only the Apache talk about cloud houses. Only the Apache have these two feathers top. Black lightning. And you can see how beautifully they've decorated this all the way around with white dots and lightning coming out of the side. The thunder inside. So, and they also, we have lightning, we have hail, but they're ribbons of hail, only they go across. Maybe sheet lightning and thunder, burger streaks in a rainbow. So now the last part, if I have any time left, I have no idea. We're going to go to the Hopi, which are really easy because they have a whole syllabus. And you can see in any of the old literature what the lightning looks like, what the lightning ladders look like. You can see at Willow Creek where you just got this simple cloud and lightning and rain coming down on a corn plant with roots that go all the way under the rock. Like that. Simple. Cloud, lightning, rain, corn plant. You can go to a mural and you can pick out the same things. You see in the, okay, so this one is probably 400 or 500 years old. Here it is with the same snow cloud is terraced, rain cloud is round, the 4 directions of the 4 colors. lightning, and rainbird. Not a thunderbird, but a rainbird, a little bit different. On the Rio Grande, we have the terrace symbol also with the cloud, with the lightning ladder that is similar to what they used to use, which is called a pole ladder. So they're not doing a ladder like we are used to, but it was their type of ladder. And I believe this is Carice because it's sort of close to where they live. But again, you have the symbols for a terrace, for a cloud. Here it is, really nicely designed with clouds and wind. And here you have the thunder coming up, bumping up against it. Thunder here and a thunder up here, more stylized. But again, it's associated with the terrace sign for the cloud, bumping up underneath it to make it rain, coming up, bump. And the Rio Grande Pueblos have the terraced symbol filled in more, lightning coming down. This one is from my book where it shows the cloud blower, where he's blowing the clouds together to make them condense and rain. And they're using smoke in a cloud blower to entice the clouds to join together. More of these by Michael Redford, Finding the Terrace Symbols at La Cienega. And this one is really cool because it has a rainbow right inside cloud. Different way of saying it, but you can read the same symbols put together. So, summary. Animism, cloud beings. Particularism gives you the cultural syntax. Gestures give you the movement and the emotions too. Symbol association, you have to have the rain, the thunder, and lightning all together. And the spatial syntax. So you have the sky world above, the earth below, you have your cultural direction from right to left. And that's all about clouds. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Carol, for your presentation. We do have time now for questions. And if you do have a question, if you haven't already typed it into chat, please do that now and we will get to it. So, let's see, one question is asking or saying, I understand why later agriculturalists would be very interested in rain, but why would the earlier Barrier Canyon, Glen Canyon 5 basket maker two peoples who are more hunter-gatherers or archaic people be so focused on rain in their rock art?
Well, we don't know that. We know that it doesn't matter whether you're agriculturalists or not. You need rain to make the plants grow, to make the game come out, to feed it doesn't matter if it's domestic plants or wild plants, you still need rain to make the plants grow. And all of the people out of the Great Basin that come through with their seed beaters and everything follow around rainstorms. They're called a traveling culture that can just follow where there's been a cloud burst, go right over there, and in a few days you've got this big explosion of seedy plants, the quinoams that grow in flash flood areas and boggy places. Then you're done, you go over the next hill and up to the next hill, but it has to rain to make the plants grow.
Yeah, so even more general, it's actually pretty interesting to see some of these interpretations, which otherwise look pretty mysterious. But how do you take the ethnography and bridge the gap between ethnography and the rock art?
Well, you have to use the very oldest you can find before there's too much of a disconnect. But you can find it in the metaphors that they use. And that's what I keep looking for. I go right to the actual language, the word for word translation, not into English, but word for word. And Franz Boas was the best at that. The Carisan text has all of these words, word for word, and how they say it in Carisen. And then Bunzel and Benedict did that for the Zuni, and Patterson sort of compiled it all together. But I have those big thick BAEs that they're all sticky tab because I have to go back over and over and over and read it because they don't make sense in our culture. But to them, you have to imagine that you're got a relationship with these clouds. They are real. You don't have any other explanation except that they have a personality and you don't want to offend it. You want them to reciprocate whatever you give, whatever you sacrifice, and you pray and you dance and you sing, that they will reciprocate with rain. It's the only way to live, really. I don't know how to explain it. I had to change my whole worldview, and that's why I had trouble with professors because it's not there. So, but when you read this stuff and get into their language and how they say things like cloud houses, and when they talk about the Koshari making a little movement with his arm to stop the dancing, and there it is right on the panel, shows him moving his arm back and forth. You've got something that's 1,000 years before that's right in the text that they preserved, that they've really stuck with. It's the foundation myths. It's the decree of their faith. It's like every culture has it that defines their faith, what they believe in. And some of these panels are just that, just a display of exactly what they believe in.
Yeah, pretty interesting. So something like the relationship between the ladder and the rainbow, is that something that you pulled out of the language as well?
Oh yeah, that's a common saying that I grew up with in Santa Fe. Going to the dances, they always talked about coming down the ladders. It's in all the text and the stories.
Okay, so some of it is in the text, but also it sounds like some of these metaphors are still living today among the various tribes. Is that the case?
Yes, yes. You can go to a Pueblo dance today and see the Kachinas climb the ladder, and it's all symbolic of climbing up into the clouds.
Hmm.
Not the Kachina, the Kasharis. Kasharis climb up the ladder and they go down again. Because they were sent to live with the sun, and so they're the sun. They have a relationship with the sun, and they can go up and down and do all of that stuff. They're pretty magic.
Uh-huh. And are there pieces of the art that are not related to clouds and rain?
Well, of course, I'm just picking out the clouds.
Yeah, so going beyond, what are some of the other metaphors that figure highly in the art?
Well, I've written a whole lot of different stories. I don't know. I keep you here all night. I'm just talking about, Crick Child said it best if you read his book. He asked Chris Lewis, do you ever think about, Chris Lewis is a representative from Zuni Pueblo who's a weaver and is on the board for Friends of Cedar Mesa now, but he and I have worked a lot on these sites and identifying the Zuni sites, twins, a lot of panels. There's another one that's all just about the twins and wars and battles. But do you ever think about clouds? Craig asked Chris Lewis, and Chris says, clouds, I think about clouds all day long. I go to bed thinking about clouds. I dream about clouds at night. I wake up in the morning thinking about clouds. I'm so sick of thinking about clouds. They do. And if you look at your own life, how often do you check your iPhone for the weather? You are thinking about clouds too.
True enough. Someone asked about the horned serpent that sometimes appears with cloud symbols. Is there a way to think about what that means?
That is the horn. Manu has always represented a flash flood. He's the serpent that goes down the arroyos like this. And I've done a show too where I show actual flash floods coming down a ravine, and they're all covered with branches and sticks and stuff, and they look really hairy. But they're important, like I was saying, because a flash flood soaks up this ground where all these seeds are lying dormant. And within a week, it's full of quinoams, amaranth and quinopodium, wild spinach. You call it pigweed, but that's what they ate. It's so high in protein. It's like quinoa that you buy in the store. So it's a good sign. You want to have those flash floods. They're friendly. They're dangerous. It's a warning. And I've done a whole presentation of all the flash flood warning sites and that are associated with him, and he's in it or he's not in it or whatever. But he's either good if you know about it. He's a flash flood area, or better get out of there if you're in a box canyon or something. It'd be very dangerous.
Yeah, it's fascinating. If anyone has any other questions, please put them into chat quickly. Would you like to say something about, do you have a bibliography published about some of these things that you've written up?
About articles I published?
Yeah, that go through some of these metaphors that you're talking about.
Oh, if you go to Parsons' double volume on Pueblo religion, you can look up metaphors, and there's all the pages where there's metaphors. I don't know what that caught me off, because I have boxes up there for spiral notebooks, little blue ones that I've kept for 40 years actually, and still collecting them, still writing in them. They're just like, every time I run across a metaphor, I write it down, because that's the clue. That's what the symbol's going to be of. The terrace symbol that you see that looks like that, it's a cloud. It comes from sign language. It means to pile up. See if I can get it from the camera. So you go like this, pile up. Now it can be a temple, it can be a house, or it can be a cloud. The only guys that don't do that are the Utes. They're metaphor. It's the metaphor of water bag. Water bag is not a little terrace. It's a bag, and it has rain coming down. So that's why I showed that picture of the metaphors that they all use. All those symbols come from metaphors. I don't know if I could ever get it back up again, but so you have water bag, and then you have cloud houses. And that came out of Opler's book on the Hickory Apache, where right in the text, and he wrote it down, he didn't change it, it said a cloud house. And you go, that's it, because the Pueblos don't call it a house, only the Apache call it a house. So that takes a long time gathering those up and keeping your ears open for it. There they are. Can you see my screen? You can't see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so you see the different symbols. So, yeah. I love metaphors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real interesting way of approaching rock art. So one of the questions people ask is, how do you take like ethnographic information, which is, on the going back a few hundred years, let's say, and apply it to rock art that's as old as the Glen linear culture, maybe 3,000 years old, or even earlier. How do you make that connection?
Well, that's what they all teach you, especially in archaeology, that you can't rely on it because it changes over time. Now, Alfonso Ortiz was my teacher back in those days. I have him on film. He says, those are foundation myths. They can't change. If they change, the culture has to change. And he shakes his head like that, and he says, they can't change. They're permanent. And the Pueblos are like that. It's been very difficult to get into what their religion is all about. It's like a shell of an onion, you can peel off a little bit, but they're very closed about it. Acoma is the toughest. And I only have one little book on it, and one little book on the Hickory that was captured in the turn of the 1800s, 1890s, and that's it. They just, because of the Catholic Church and everybody condemning them and all of that, they just kept it all very closed. So I'm limited by what's in the text of the early ethnographers to the metaphors that may be represented by the symbols. And then I have to separate them out. And that's what I called symbol association. You've got to, it's using cryptanalysis. You've got to get all those things to line up where you have, all the rain things, so you're not talking about a battle, or all the sun symbols, so you're not talking about rain, or, the culture heroes are just by themselves. They're not rain deities. There's never any rain around culture heroes. They're just the warriors right there. Or the emergence story, or the conception story. They have just a tight little syllabus of symbols that go together, that are in the text, they're in that story, period.
Okay, so a couple of questions about how these might relate to other rock art. So, for example, do you think that the rain people may also be represented in the Grand Canyon Esplanade style of the North Rim?
You'd have to show me the image. I'm sure, I'm not sure that, from what I've learned from Carolyn Boyd, those are Uto-Aztecan Pushal authors, and they have more to do with the sacred deer and the spirits that are associated with the peyote ceremony, and that would take me another hour to go through all that.
Yeah, okay. How about like Mesoamerica? Does that have similar kinds of?
Yeah, different. It's just mine is totally different. Uto-Aztecan with the Zapotec and Aztec are similar to the Paiute. They go for these symbols, and they have a lexicon, and they have a picture writing that you can read, and that's all been pretty well sussed out, but I'm not going to go into it now. That's my next slide.
Okay, good. Well, we can look forward to that. Lee Marimore also reminds us that he does have a rock art bibliography database, so that's another place to check for Carol's papers. And
Bibliography.
yeah, with that, I would like to thank you again, Carol, for your presentation, and thanks to all the attendees for your interest. Again, if you'd like to learn more about Aurora or get involved, we hope you will get involved, please check out our website and Facebook pages. We always invite everyone to renew or join our membership to support the study and conservation of rock art. So until next time, everybody, stay safe.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.